Signore e signori, benvenuti a Palazzo Vecchio, benvenuti nel Salone dei 500. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome in Florence, in Palazzo Vecchio, in Salone dei 500. Dear Jane Fortune, thank you to be here. We are proud to have you in this special moment for our city, because as I told you, we have an important event in these days about the protection of cultural heritage. And also for this reason, we are proud and honored to give you our prize, the Fiorino d'Oro. Siamo molto felici e orgogliosi di avere qui Jane Fortune in questa occasione speciale per Firenze, ovvero l'organizzazione di un incontro internazionale con 60 sindaci provenienti da tutto il mondo. Questa seconda edizione che si chiama Unity in Diversity, appunto. Infatti molti di voi sono seduti nei posti delle delegazioni delle città che intervengono e che già oggi si sono confrontate sul tema della resilienza, cioè della capacità delle nostre comunità, delle nostre città ad adattarsi all'emergenza e ad affrontare quelle catastrofi naturali che distruggono e minacciano i nostri territori e il nostro patrimonio culturale. Quindi non è casuale la presenza qui della fondatrice e presidente della AWA, la Advancing Women Artists Foundation. Non è casuale perché l'impegno di Jane Fortune è stato sempre rivolto alla tutela e alla valorizzazione del patrimonio culturale. Per questo oggi, insieme a tutti voi qui intervenuti nel Salone dei 500 e con l'assessore Nicoletta Mantovani che ha seguito tutta la fase di preparazione, di invito e di preparazione di questo incontro, ci ritroviamo per il conferimento del riconoscimento più importante che la città di Firenze può consegnare ad una persona, ovvero il Fiorino d'Oro. È un riconoscimento che abitualmente, come molti di voi sanno, consegniamo il 24 di giugno, il giorno del patrono di Firenze, San Giovanni, ma in via eccezionale, sia per l'importanza dell'occasione e anche per la contestualità con questo meeting internazionale di cui vi ho detto, abbiamo deciso di invitare Jane Fortune questa sera per conferirle appunto il Fiorino d'Oro. Nella sua funzione di presidente della Advancing Women Artists Foundation, la signora Fortune è stata principale finanziatrice di molti restauri che hanno interessato la nostra città di Firenze, a Palazzo Pitti, agli Uffizi, nei vari musei della nostra città, il Museo di San Marco, ma penso anche al Museo Novecento o a Santa Maria Novella, che tra l'altro è coinvolta dal più recente importante progetto a cui sta lavorando Jane Fortune e di cui abbiamo appena parlato. Come sapete, la signora Fortune è anche coautrice e produttrice di molti documentari televisivi e, come credo si vedrà anche nel filmato che concluderà questo incontro, documentari che illustrano importanti restauri e tra l'altro narrano anche le protagoniste di questi restauri tra il passato e il presente. Questi interventi hanno dato vita a pubblicazioni, seminari di studi, mostre che sono stati pensati, creati e anche supportati economicamente dalla dottoressa Fortune. Noi possiamo considerare, io credo, Jane Fortune un'ambasciatrice di Firenze nel mondo. Mi ha fatto molto piacere ricordare con Jane che il suo primo contatto con Firenze è avvenuto grazie alla scuola che ha frequentato qui in città. Questo conferma quanto sia rilevante, direi vitale, lo straordinario patrimonio di scuole e di istituzioni di formazione che abbiamo a Firenze nella nostra città, scuole italiane, scuole straniere, molte di queste americane, che fungono proprio da porta d'ingresso nella nostra città di intere generazioni di ragazze e di ragazzi provenienti da ogni parte del mondo, con l'unico desiderio di conoscere da vicino la nostra città e lo straordinario patrimonio culturale che in essa è custodito. È a questo patrimonio che Jane, con la sua tenacia, si è rivolta, avendo sempre chiaro il valore del ruolo della donna nel mondo e nell'arte. Chi più di noi e chi più di Firenze può sapere quanto decisivo è stato il ruolo delle donne nella nostra storia e nella storia di questo patrimonio? Basti ricordare che grazie all'elettrice Palatina, l'ultima dei Medici, abbiamo avuto la possibilità di mantenere qui, nonostante l'avvicendamento delle dinastie dominatrici nella città, di tutto il patrimonio culturale derivante da quasi 4 secoli di mecenatismo, di collezionismo, promosso da quella grande famiglia che è stata la famiglia dei Medici, a cui peraltro proprio in queste settimane la nostra televisione pubblica ha dedicato una fiction importante che poi ha fatto discutere gli storici dell'arte sulla sufficiente aderenza alla storia reale. Ma ciò che conta è che questo patrimonio oggi è ancora in gran parte custodito nella nostra città, e questo grazie alla tenacia e alla determinazione di una donna, l'elettrice Palatina. Così come molte donne sono state alla base della produzione artistica, culturale, architettonica e non soltanto della nostra città. Io non voglio dilungarmi, ma voglio soprattutto ricordare che Jane Fortune ha saputo mettere insieme, attraverso la sua vita, la sua passione, diversi obiettivi, diversi traguardi e diversi valori. I valori appunto che hanno visto e vedono tuttora il ruolo delle donne nel progresso culturale, scientifico, tecnologico, vorrei dire sociale del nostro Paese, il valore della cultura, concepita sempre come fattore di emancipazione e di formazione delle nostre generazioni e dei cittadini di tutto il mondo. Mai l'idea dell'arte fine a se stessa, ma sempre l'idea dell'arte come mezzo di racconto, mezzo di progresso e soprattutto, come ci siamo detti con tanti sindaci qui oggi, mezzo di dialogo e di universale e reciproco riconoscimento. E infine il valore del futuro, del progresso, perché la tradizione non è mai sterile conservazione del passato. Lo stesso concetto, la stessa radice etimologica dalla quale nasce questa parola, tradizio, ci invita appunto a trasmettere valori. La tradizione è esattamente il cambiamento, è quel passaggio di testimone da una generazione all'altra, che solo l'arte, attraverso le sue forme più alte, di cui Firenze è espressione, è in grado di permettere con così grande abilità, intelligenza, lungimiranza. Queste intuizioni, questa passione, questo impegno di Jane Fortune è davvero parte del nostro patrimonio di valori e della nostra comunità. Per questo noi consideriamo la signora Fortune come una nostra cittadina, una di noi, una fiorentina a tutti gli effetti, ma direi una grande fiorentina, e per questo siamo davvero orgogliosi di consegnarle il Fiorino d'Oro. Grazie Jane e grazie a tutti voi.
Good evening. Mrs. Fortune, I'm so happy and honored to welcome you here in our city, Florence. You did so much for our city. And you represent exactly what we discussed today during our international committee. We raised principally two subjects. One subject was the importance to have support from private foundation to the local government. And you did that for Florence for many, many years. You helped Florence in protecting the cultural heritage of this city. And more than everything, you did it helping women. This morning we discussed, thanks to Mrs. Kennedy, the importance for the world to recognize the importance of women, to respect women, because most of the time women in the world have not the respect of people, and they deserve much more. And I'm so happy that you do that for the past, because many artists, many female artists were not even considered, by the men as artists. Instead, most of the time, they were even better than the men. And I'm happy that you are taking care of that. And being a woman, I'm pleased that you receive the award from a man, a mayor that really believes in women, a mayor that wanted half of his team composed by women. So thank you so much for all you do for us, for the art, and for the city of Florence. Thank you.
I have to start out saying this is an honor that if someone ever said I would get it, I would never have believed you. I am overwhelmed to be able to be honored by the city, by Mayor Nardella, Nicoletta Mantovani, and the city of Florence. This means more to me than I'm usually pretty good with words. I'm an author. I usually have words ready on my tongue all the time. This honor, though, is one that there are not adequate words to really say how it's the joy in my heart that everybody really understands this vision, and that you, the city, the Florentines, a lot of you in this room took my vision and made it into a reality. And from my standpoint, that's a gift that really rarely comes along in a lifetime. But this gift, this medal, this award, does not belong to me alone. It takes many people to make a vision a reality. The women museum directors who searched their deposits and found many forgotten works by women languishing there. If they had not found these works, we would not be restoring these works. The women restorers who breathed life back into these neglected canvases, and the scholars who studied these lost works and gave them a rightful place in Florence history. A lot of these works, one of the most wonderful things that's happened in finding these works, discovering these works, is they had no place in history. No one knew they were there. So now they have their rightful place in history. The AWA Executive Committee, who carries out my work when I'm not here, Linda Falcone, Jane Adams, Sheila Barker, Kate Rashik, and Leslie Chamaya, the 40 members of the AWA Florence Council, and the AWA Board of Directors, my board in the United States, of which there are two of my board members here tonight, Nancy Gallagher and Alice Vogler. There's one other person that I cannot leave out, and for you in this room who know Bob Hess, who is my partner of 26 years and cannot be here tonight, He has been my biggest cheerleader. And without his encouragement and belief in me, I would not be standing before you tonight. So I'd like to do a shout out to Bob, who can't be here. Thank you. He would really appreciate that. So, Florence has been been my home part-time for over 20 years. But my love affair with Florence started 54 years ago. As they said, in 1962, I spent my junior year abroad here. When I stepped off the train in Santa Maria Novella, I knew I'd come home. I just knew in my heart. It was one of those weird, but I knew I'd been here before, and this was my place. And I've carried that feeling in my heart ever since. I promised myself in 1963, when I left Florence, that someday I would give something meaningful back to this city, because it had given so much to me. That year changed my life profoundly. It made me who I am today. And of course, at the time when I left, I was only 21 years old. I had no idea what this giving back would be, obviously. But I knew no matter what it was, it had to make a difference. It had to make a difference. 10 years ago, my giving back to the city came from finding a book in English, thank goodness, because my Italian's horrible, about the first known woman painter of Florence, Suor Petronelli. I was fascinated with this self-taught nun and asked my Italian friends, had anyone ever heard of her? Well, lo and behold, only one person that I talked to had heard of this woman painter, and she was the first known woman painter of Florence. This led me to question, if they don't know the first known woman painter of Florence, how many works of art by women are here that nobody knows about? Well, that started my quest, and that really became my way of giving back to Florence, to save these lost works by women that have been languishing for centuries in the city's deposits. But most important, the most important thing is to give these artists a voice. They finally, and a rightful place in history. They have a rightful place here in this city, and we're trying to give them that voice and that rightful place. And the irony in the situation, by giving them a voice, I found my voice. I love Florence with all my heart and soul. I hope if you do come back after you die, I pray that I get to come back to Florence as a Florentine. So, I will continue to give back to the city until my last breath. This city, I can never tell anyone how important it is to me, how much it means to me. And again, I thank you so much for this award, and I'm very humbled, really humbled, to have been chosen for this award. I know how important it is, and I really am, I guess they're not words. I'm very humbled that you would choose me. I really am. And I will cherish it and this evening forever. We're going to be showing a film after this, which basically was produced by PBS in the United States, and it highlights the works of art by women that AWA discovered that have been stored in the city's deposits for 48 years. Most of them never been seen before, and had been donated to the city to replace works of art destroyed in the 1966 flood. It seems only fitting that their selfless gifts be finally recognized and celebrated on this 50th anniversary of the flood. We hope you enjoy the film, and afterwards, please join us for a light Tuscan buffet in the courtyard. Again, thank you, thank you, thank you. I cannot tell you how much this means to me. I love you all.
One moment.
Thank you. Thank you. Very kind.
Jane, On behalf of the American people, the U.S. Consulate, the U.S. government, and me personally, thank you so much for the contribution that you and your organization have made to the city of Florence, the people of Florence, the history and the art in this incredible city, for building and strengthening the bridge between our two countries, and for elevating women to their rightful place in history. Congratulations.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Grazie alla nostra console generale per essere qui. Anche lei è una donna bravissima. E quindi vi lasciamo ora alla visione del film di cui vi ha appena parlato Jane Fortune. Grazie ancora, buona serata.
It was quite a dramatic moment. Imagine Florence had become a river.
It was a historic, cataclysmic flood which threatened lives and some of mankind's most precious masterpieces.
The whole world really felt that it had been damaged in some very profound way.
We have so many things that were lost over time. Not too much was left due to these floods.
This is the story of how the world answered.
The world came and answered Florence's plea, and they did it because I think, in general, the world loves Florence.
And how it's still answering 50 years later.
It bears witness to the good that can come from pain, or that can come from the flood in this case.
When the World Answered is made possible through the generous support of the following individuals.
The great Arno River passes right through the city of Florence, Italy, the city of man, of Galileo, Botticelli, and Leonardo da Vinci, who said a single drop of water can gather and reflect all the places it passes. And in time, water eventually changes everything. In 1966, without warning, the Arno burst out of its banks in the night when most were sleeping.
I had a tiny little camera, and I could only afford one roll of film at a time.
Nicholas Krasinja took some of the first recorded still images.
I went onto the bridge, and it was exhilarating. It was very dark because it was overcast. In order to take a photograph, I had to hold my breath and, of course, wait for a dramatic moment to snap. It's amazing how a young mind does not consider what danger is or can be. Here I am. This is a historic moment, and I'm living through it. It's my own personal history and Florence history are coinciding.
Internationally acclaimed movie director Franco Zeffirelli recorded the only known film of the watery cataclysm.
I took my camera with a friend of mine and went around. It was so overwhelming, with people floating around. They were losing everything.
With unparalleled intensity, the raging water destroyed homes, lives, and some of the world's most precious artistic treasures.
The great fear was that something wonderful had been damaged.
Not since the Renaissance had a flood caused such devastation. 4 million rare books from the library, 14,000 masterpieces. Ghiberti's Doors of Paradise ripped open. Donatello's Mary Magdalene swept away. Santa Croce's Cimabue, Vasari's Last Supper, all soaked in oil and mud.
The water starts coming into the city, and it rises so fast that no one has time to save or bring away from museums and churches those art treasures of which Florence is so rich. The city of Dante, of Michelangelo, of Galileo, of Machiavelli is in a dreadful state.
Narrated by Richard Burton, Days of Destruction is Zeffirelli's only documentary.
Zeffirelli's film, I cannot watch it without great emotion.
I think the first one we found was the 7th.
Antonia Bargiolini was 22 years old when her family's home was nearly submerged.
We were afraid that buildings would collapse because the water rose 5 meters higher. We saw the diesel flowing out. We were afraid that it would have caught fire.
Her father, Mayor Piero Bargiolini, governed rooftop to rooftop amidst the shouts of news and calls for help.
And it seemed to be almost back to the Middle Ages because of the silence. No light, no water, no nothing. And those voices that you could hear through the night were very frightening.
It was like out of Dante's Inferno because it was silence. And the only thing you could hear were the oars dipping into the water. And all these people on the boat were like frozen. And as soon as they touched land, everybody was animated and started talking. It was like somebody turned on their sound. Right then and there, decided that I would photograph the people of Florence and what happened to them and how the city was resurrected from the mud.
And when we came out in this Florence, covered in mud, dirty, we were welcomed by other parts of the city in an unthinkable way, and a great sense of camaraderie began to develop. And that, in my opinion, is what changed my life.
The response to Zeffirelli's film was overwhelming. Thousands of volunteers, millions in aid. First responders were mostly students who became known as the Mud Angels.
And those Mud Angels were kids, basically, that came from all over the world and helped get these works of art out of the museums and into places where they could be stored or saved until they could be restored.
The political differences had no room there. Socially, financially, all differences were non-existent anymore.
Of course, it was terrible. Everything was dark, full of mud, no food. But I remember was incredible times of solidarity.
It was a tragedy for everyone because as the capital of humanism, as the capital of culture, the whole world really responded.
It actually brought the world to Florence and showed Florence how much the world loved it.
The flood forced in a new era of scientific discovery in the field of restoration, both in art and also precious books.
Right after the flood, they closed the library, trying to actually move the things up and start the restoration work. So the whole library was closed for 10 years.
Here at the National Central Library in Florence, restoration work still continues.
They did some mistakes at the beginning. They tried to clean things up using sponges. They used sawdust on the material that added dirt to dirt. No one knew what to do. And they started washing books in the railway station, where that was the only place in Florence where they had clean water.
The flood destroyed 4 million rare books. Today, there are 7 conservators who still wash and trim, resew and bind. For some materials and works of art, it's taken 50 years to develop restoration techniques that work. Across town, at the Opificio del Pietre Dure, scientific developments continue to save the damaged art.
They are now one of the most specialized restoration labs in the world. They can pretty much restore any kind of material.
After over 40 years in storage, a technique has finally been developed to save Giorgio Vasari's Last Supper.
Up until a few years ago, it was completely covered with Japanese paper. So it's a huge work of art, and you came in and you only saw these white boards. Hopefully it will be back in 2016 when we have the 50th anniversary of the flood.
Vasari's Last Supper will eventually return to Florence's Basilica of Santa Croce, resting place for Florence's greats and perhaps hardest hit by the flood.
This is the cloister, the room of the Last Supper, the huge place where there were probably 300 monks gathered to eat. That was the lowest place in Florence in 1966.
Secretary General Giuseppe de Micheli points to the watermarks in the cloister where Vasari's Last Supper and dozens of masterpieces were located when the flood hit. Santa Croce is both a church and a museum of fine art. Part of the allure of Florence is seeing great works of art in the very places where patrons and artists intended for them to be seen.
Santa Croce is a pantheon of Italian greats. So many great Italian men and women are buried here. We have Michelangelo, Galileo Galilei, Machiavelli, Ghiberti, and an empty monument to Dante Alighieri as well.
The Cimabue crucifix, Santa Croce's very first piece of art, became a victim of the flood and a symbol of the devastation.
Cimabue's crucifix was restored over about 10 years' time. It lost about 50% of its paint. When the work was restored, it's kind of like a symbol of resurrection. It got to live again. It was reborn.
Santa Croce is restoring and protecting treasures from future floods by moving them to higher ground.
They have literally taken every piece that's precious and they have hung it or put it up so high. They've made sure that if a flood came, that they've got a mechanism that will even raise these things up all the way up so that they could never, ever be destroyed by the flood again.
In the cloister, where floodwaters reached 22 feet high, Felice de Favreau's monument, restored by Advancing Women artists in 2013, symbolizes a new day of hope. Today, Florence is a vibrant city. Its charm lies in narrow streets and impressive architecture and art. 50 years later, the only reminders of the flood are the markers on the buildings. Antonia Bargelini still lives in her family's home. It's difficult to imagine it being submerged in 22 feet of water.
So it went up to the terrace?
So say up to that. Those windows were all covered, Jane.
Oh my goodness.
Not far away, photographer Nicholas Sleetland Krasinyai is now a distinguished professor at Il Bisonte School of Graphic Arts.
I had no intentions of ever staying forever in Florence, but because of the flood, because of what happened, and then after the flood, seeing the city reborn, I felt at home. This is all the detail there, and there, of course, transfers here.
Il Bisonte was submerged in the flood. Afterwards, artists like Sarai Sherman came to help revive Florence's art community. Another founder, art historian Carlo Ludovico Racchiante, worked with Mayor Piero Bargelini to raise worldwide public awareness to the needs of Florentine cultural institutions. One of Racchiante's most memorable initiatives was the Artists for Florence.
The flood came, he put out a plea to the international community to have people donate works of art to the city. He kind of played on the flood, but in doing that, he got a lot of works of art.
He wanted to restore ancient art, and he also wanted to restore the city as a capital of the arts.
The municipality of Florence accepted hundreds of notable works by men and women from all over the world. They came with different styles and various levels of talent, united by a single promise. Their works would one day become part of Florence's International Museum for Contemporary Art. The women artists who donated became known as Flood Ladies, and they helped Racchiante stage shows and auctions. But the dream of a new museum soon faded away, and the works disappeared into storage. It would be decades before those contributions were fully known.
One of the museum directors came to us with a list of paintings that she had found by women that she did not know were in her storages. Well, she found 100 works. We decided we would write a book about that.
Jane Fortune is the founder of a global organization known as Advancing Women Artists.
My quest is to recuperate a vital part of Florence's unknown cultural history and to celebrate these invisible women by making their works visible. Over there at Palazzo Vecchio.
Florentines call her Indiana Jane for her efforts to find, restore, and exhibit lost or forgotten artworks by women.
In most museums you go into, you don't really get to see too many female artists. I think Jane helped in a way to give them the spotlight.
Success has come from building relationships between women museum curators and directors.
I think that Jane has been able to create new attention on these women artists.
Advancing Women Artists is credited with making visible dozens of works by women Renaissance artists. But now the focus was on the flood, on writing a book about the forgotten works of contemporary women artists known as the Flood Ladies. Restoration of their work was the job of Rosella Lari.
They were on display for a short period of time at the Palazzo Vecchio, and the Florentines, not everyone had seen them. And one of the first things I said to Jane and Linda when I first met them was just, let's pull out things from the storage. That is the best thing we could do, because it's enrichment.
Before the flood, restoration was considered a man's trade. But now it's a field dominated by women artists like Rosella.
Women restorers can retain lots of things in their heads, not just a few, and they can grasp each and every meaning. They can get the whole picture all at once.
One of the reasons that we felt that we should do this project is because these pieces have not been seen, and they are a part of history that relates to the 1966 flood. We felt this was a selfless giving on their part, and we just felt that their voices should be heard.
Who are these women artists? What did they contribute? How did they live? What do they think?
The search for the Flood Ladies revealed that only a few were still living. Most had left lively legacies in wondrous places, like the mountainous village of Anticoli, Corrado. From the late 1920s, it was a village of artists, known for the beautiful young women like Pascarosa Marcelli Bertoletti.
She started her career on the other side of the canvas. She started as a model. When she first started, she was an illiterate, beautiful young woman. And Nino Bertoletti painted her for the entirety of his life in all ways. She became educated and she became cultured.
Today, many of Pascarosa's paintings are found at the Civic Museum of Modern Art here, managed in part by her grandson, Paolo Bertoletti.
Here the women were more important, and we have to consider something else, that the husbands would exhibit through their wives' work. For example, my grandfather stayed a step behind, always caring more about his wife's success. The two were an unbreakable bond.